Welcome back to Pod Places. I am Jeff Sigler.
I'm Phil Ike.
And I'm Ryan Short.
This week we're going to discuss Phil's omelets, which should be an in-depth, interesting conversation. A lot of takes, a lot of viewpoints.
I love my omelets.
Enneagrams, jumping into the civic social idea and the if your bar was a city. And then finally talk a bit about boards and committees. And I know that sounds pretty spicy, but it'll make sense. So any news from you guys? How's everything going with Ryan? What's happening in your world?
Oh, not much. Just wrapping up a busy week. Excited to hear about this omelet, though.
That's trending. What's going on in my life. Is this omelet from Uptown Grill here in Bay City? I've only eaten at Uptown Grill one time in my life, and I had to stop by to get some video B-roll of some breakfast foods. And so I got my B-roll footage, and I was packing up my gear, and the waitress asked me if I wanted it. And I said, yes, please. So I took it back to my office, and it was the best omelet. I think it was a Meat Lovers omelet. So I got chastised by my wife yesterday because she's like, if you keep eating out at Uptown Grill like this, we're all gonna be poor. So I have to back off my omelet habit a little bit. But
are you getting omelet kickbacks?
Yeah.
I'm not getting any omelet kickbacks, but maybe soon. That's how I can be like a local influencer. I can become known as the omelet guy.
So no joke, when I started our firm 12 years ago, part of my business strategy was, hey, if I can't get anybody to hire me, I could just do trades for all. So I'll do a website for a pizza place and I'm set with pizza. And we did a website for local brewery and they actually sent a little kegerator to our office. And so I was like, I got my pizza, I got my beer. It was just, I don't need money. I just need stuff. So I'll just one-off barter. So
that's part of a contract I have with a client. They make poke bowls. So it's pretty much sushi, but it comes in a bowl like Chipotle. Mm-hmm. And part of my contract is the retainer amount plus free food whenever I stop by.
Yes. Smart.
That's quite a good deal. I mean, you can't even report that on your taxes, I think. I think it's savvy.
Just fly right under the radar. Come and get me, Uncle Sam. I'm right here.
My economy tanks. It still
you're still flushing poke bowls. Bill, how's your week been? What's going on up in Bay City?
It's been busy. It's been super busy. I think I probably talked about this before, but a lot of people, their work lives slowed down during the pandemic. But when everybody loses real world connections to other people and they can't go out and go out to eat or go out with their friends, everybody just floods to social media. And so the last 4 months have been just insane. And Michigan's it all depends on who you talk to, of course, but Michigan's on a little bit of a COVID upswing. And so now there's talk, are we going to be shifting back to shutting down or things like that? And so it's been crazy busy on the social medias.
Nice.
Pittsburgh's fairly quiet. Our cases are coming back down. We had crushed this thing. Like by the 1st of June, it was over. And then it like snuck back in one night and then blew up, but it's starting to come back down. So that's good. But things have been quiet. I did not that you all asked, which I found very rude, but my week is fine. Did a keynote down in Florida. Like it is the weirdest thing they hand over the presentation of Florida Main Street and Florida Preservation, the trust, and they just hand over, they're like, okay, now you're on. And for 45 minutes, there's pure silence. Like you are just speaking into the void. I don't know if anybody can hear me. I don't know if my audio is on. I don't know if people are sleeping. Like it's so strange. It's a weird exercise.
I did a talk with for the United Way of Midland County and all these other counties in this kind of Great Lakes Bay area in Michigan, and it was the exact same thing. I was talking for literally 45 minutes, and and trying to ask questions. And it was such a weird, awkward thing because there's no energy to feed off of. You're talking to a screen. You don't hear anybody. You don't hear reactions. You can't feel the energy in the room. It's brutal.
Right. A good, presentation relies on a bit of nonverbal feedback. Yeah. And like, are they laughing out there? Or are people like visibly upset? Like, I have no idea.
I did that on a conference call a couple weeks ago, but it was just, we got disconnected and I'm still talking like a dummy for like 20 minutes. And then we get back on and he's like, so I think I dropped off and it was like the first minute of what I said. And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't really say anything after that. And I was just like, fine.
Carry on.
All right, Ryan, I want you to kind of fill us in on these Enneagrams. It was by the way, super cool post, ton of fun. It was a fun way to look at it and think about those personality types. But what kind of brought this about?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess, you guys pay attention to this stuff? The Enneagram?
No, explain it to me like I'm 5.
I wasn't familiar until you posted, and then I went through and did the test, and now I forget who I am.
So it's kind of for the last probably, I mean, the Enneagram has been around for literally thousands of years, I think. Don't quote me on anything.
Wow. Well, I feel really late to the
throwing numbers up.
But I'm going to fact check you as you're
been around for, you get on the fact check. And my wife, Banner, who's one of the founders of Civic Brand, she is the Yoda of Enneagram. She knows, she's like read multiple books. She's done like workshops about it. Like she knows everything about Enneagrams. And so it's kind of become this thing at our office that we just kind of talk about, and it's really fun. And like at first I kind of was like, it's kind of just like the Myers-Briggs thing. And it's like, and it is very similar to that, but I haven't read a single thing about it, but just by osmosis of being around her, talking about it all the time, I feel like I actually really have this strong understanding of it. And I honestly think it's a really valuable thing because at first it's kind of a fun thing, but then it really gets at the motivations behind why people do things and why they act certain ways. And I think, when you understand that, where someone's coming from, it makes a huge difference, I think, in your relationship of like, I get why he's doing that. He's like, when he gets nervous, he kind of flexes a little bit and gets aggressive. He's not being a jerk. That's just his approach to when he gets nervous. So he's nervous. So like, instead of flexing back, I can help him, calm down or whatever, so there's all these different things that you can really, I think it's really valuable, but I also just think it's really fun. Like, I feel like I've learned the most about it just from Instagram memes. People make all these kind of silly things like Enneagrams at Target, and like the 5 is like hiding from people they know when they see them, where the 7 is like chasing their friends down the aisle. And so I don't know. So you're not supposed to say what your number is, or you're not supposed to tell people what that you think they are, but I want to see if I can guess what you guys are. So you guys know what number you are?
I have no idea. I haven't taken the test.
Okay, you haven't taken it.
I took it and
but
forgot.
You can still guess, and then
am.
But when we stop recording, I'll take the test, and then I'll tell you if you're right.
I think I might know.
Here's my take on you. I'm going to diagnose you guys real quick.
Uh-oh.
What you're not supposed to do.
Oh, my connection is dying. I'm losing connection.
So I think you could be a 9. And again, I don't know either of you super well, but
the closer to 10, the better, right? Is that the scale this is on?
You're in last. You're last place.
Oh, dang it.
But no, the reason I would say you're 9 is I would say that you are very much like kind of a peacemaker, from what I've seen, and that, if people are having a debate, you can very much kind of like see both sides and kind of want to keep things pretty balanced. And I think that's a pretty common thing of a 9.
I'm a middle child, so that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm a 1, and I'm like poster child for a 1. And Jeff, I kind of think you could maybe also be a 1. And the part of the 1 is like everything. They like things like very like neat and orderly, but then a big thing is like, because it gets into the motivations. And so like the example I used for the 1 was of what makes them mad is they don't understand why everybody doesn't support their boycott of Amazon. So it's kind of a joke, but like there's a very strong sense of like right and wrong, and like this is wrong and this is right, and I don't understand why everybody else doesn't get on board with this, and you know, that's their motivation.
So here's a crazy thing. You said that I sound like a 9. My twin brother sounds exactly like a 1.
Yeah.
The world to him is black and white, and like, I am right, you are wrong, that is right, that is wrong, and all you dummies. You know, that's exactly my twin brother.
It's so deep though, because, and this is where I got, because at first it's like, oh, it's very like simplified, but there's a lot of layers to where, like, in weakness you go towards a different number, and in strength you go to it. And that's for me where it's like, oh wow, I really noticed that, like, when I'm stressed out I start doing this, and when I'm feeling good I start doing this. And
is that the meaning behind the picture that you always see with the Enneagrams, how like Enneagrams are connected?
Yeah. There's like 3 of the numbers are like in a head triad where you're very like thought driven, and then some are very like emotional driven and feeling. And but yeah, I mean, I don't know, I think it's I don't know, so that's my take on what I think you guys could be, but I don't know.
Okay, I can see that. Again, I remember taking it, and I don't exactly remember the results, but I do think if maybe it was like 1 and 8 came up both strong. Yeah. But in
go ahead.
That 8 was I believe you ascribed to being a city manager, I think, and like I am the most impressed with city managers. Like, I think that is such a, like, wow, what a hard job. That's tough. Those people are awesome. And then I also think, like, wouldn't want to do that. I think that is too much for me. I wouldn't want people always mad at me. I wouldn't want to be like, I like what they do, and I think it would be cool to be in that position, but it's like, man, that responsibility might more than I'm willing to bite off.
Yeah. Well, and I think 1 and 8 are very, very similar. And so you can actually like Google like difference between 1 and 8, and it gets to the motivation, because they could do the same things and act similar ways, but they have slightly different motivations for why they do it. So if you think you might be those two, like, that makes a lot of sense. And I would read that, and I think Trump's an 8, so that would make sense for you, Jeff.
Whoa! You the T word, man. I have a question for you then on this, both of you. What motivated you to get into the work that you do? You know, we are all somehow involved in trying to improve places. Like, I think we all have a passion about trying to make communities better, which ultimately is about helping people. But what specifically motivated you to take this route that ended up where you all ended up being entrepreneurs in this particular field that you're in?
For me, you know, I was a designer, and so I was kind of doing, branding and marketing and things like that for companies. But I had a lot of friends that were architects, and I was always super envious of the work they were doing, because they were creating these buildings and things that were going to be around for hundreds of years and that shaped people's lives. And I saw how architecture and buildings in place shape people's lives. And I'm like, man, I'm making these dumb logos and websites that are going to be outdated in 2 years. And so, we started doing a lot of work with architecture firms, and, really kind of slowly just transitioned into that, because I thought, I saw how messaging and branding for communities can be really powerful and can shape people's lives and change it. And to me, that was way more rewarding than just helping some company sell more of their crap, so that was kind of the main thing for me.
I got into my work first out of necessity. I didn't have anything else that I could convince people to pay me money for. So it was that. But I had left teaching, and I was working for a small business, and I just saw how if you're running a small business, especially when you're doing it by yourself, you're just responsible for everything. Every little thing. You stop working, your business stops working. You run into a problem, no one's going to help you. You have to figure it out. You're going to stumble. You're going to, like, all of these things, and you're trying to spin all of these plates. And so I saw an opportunity to go into a small business and say, hey, don't worry, I got this. Like, I'll take care of this one thing. You know that you have to do social media, and in order to do it well, you need great pictures, and you need great photography, and you need great storytelling. I'll just take care of that for you so that you can go do other things, whether or not it's business focused, or you just get to stay at home with your family and you get to spend an hour a day with your your kids that you wouldn't have because you were trying to get your social media up and running. So is kind of that idea of being able to help take away a point of stress and concern for small business owners.
And what about you, Jeff?
Just the money. Yeah. Like the fistfuls of cash.
Make it rain.
Yeah. It was like, should I be a robber baron or consult with dysfunctional cities? Like, ooh, I know.
Eco-terrorist or high-end art thief were that's what I wanted to be.
I don't have any friends in my stable that are high-end art thieves, and like I'm missing that. That would my like street cred would go way up. I was graduated with an economics degree. Like, well, I don't want to do anything there. I have no idea about anything like that, and was screwing around. I was living out in Montana, and there was an organization, the Upper Yellowstone Coalition, that was looking for volunteers to help do some surveying. Like basically what was happening is, man, the Yellowstone leaving Yellowstone River up through Paradise Valley, leaving the park is stunning. Like it's incredible. But what kept happening is like, California and a person from California would come up, buy a ranch, think like, oh, this ranching's going to be pretty neat stuff. And a year later, like, oh, it turns out I hate this. So they'd sell it off. It would get subdivided, and really the landscape was changing as the valley filled in with garbage, and so they were trying to protect that land. And it really, like, I had no idea that was a thing. I never thought about land use, and so it sparked an interest in city planning. I went and studied city planning down in Virginia, and while I was there, worked for a developer. Sorry, I didn't mean to give you my whole life story here. But this developer would renovate historic buildings, old empty buildings. And I saw where, like, oh my God, you can change a neighborhood by fixing one building, like cleaning up a bit of blight, giving a building new life, changed a neighborhood, changed people. And it's like, this is incredible. This is fascinating. I have to do this. So that kind of led me down the revitalization and Main Street path.
Yeah, it is crazy how, and I think, Jeff, in your talks, you always kind of sometimes say, you always relate it to a person, like, man, if you want to feel better, you go get a haircut or you buy some new clothes, like, and it instantly does. It makes you feel, you walk around different that day, and yeah, it's one simple thing sometimes makes such a huge difference.
So I found the Enneagrams useful because it's certainly helpful to know the people that you're dealing with. And if you can understand, it doesn't always work to try to nail somebody down. But, if you understand somebody's motivation, if you understand where they're coming from and their concerns, it's certainly a lot easier to accomplish something. And I think we're all in a bit of that business. Like, we're trying to make something really good happen in these communities. We're trying to make sure that these communities are great places for people to live. We're trying to help, but there's barriers to that always. There's going to be people that have other concerns, other motivations that are standing in the way of that. So I do think it's useful to be able to say, like, okay, I get why this council is overly concerned, or maybe to them concerned enough, and you're overly concerned, like, oh, liability. We talked about it last week, like, oh, liability for everything. I think it's very helpful to understand somebody's motivation or concern to try to get this good work done.
I think too, there's a power in understanding yourself and understanding other people, because it reinforces the idea that you as part of the community have a specific role that you can fill and that you should fill. You don't have to try to fill every role or try to fill 5 different roles. You have a role to fill. I thought that when we were primarily, the work that I do is contribute positive stories about community, so business owners and things like that. But we ran into a little bit of like crisis management during some protests that were going on in the city of Saginaw. And I really had to work hard to do that crisis response thing. And after 2 weeks and things started calming down, I really had to sit down and reevaluate, well, what is my role within the community? Am I now a public information officer that has to run and, put out fires and set out all these information, or am I the storyteller? and I had to like very consciously decide, I tell stories and that is what I do. It's someone else's role to manage crisis or do something else. And so when you look at the community as a whole, not everybody needs to become mayor, or not everybody should be the city manager, but they should use who they are as a person to inform how they make contributions to the rest of the community.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I mean, because it takes all the different types to make a community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's super important for people to don't ever let somebody tell you that like your way or your approach isn't right or isn't what's needed, because they're probably just trying to get you, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're an artistic, creative person, like, you might find times when you're like, oh, the work I'm doing, that's kind of like fun, meaningless side stuff. And it's like, no, that's, somebody tweeted like about this pandemic it was like, science is going to get us out of this pandemic, but art is going to get us through this pandemic.
Yeah. I like that.
Awesome,
something that have found in my work that, where these tools are useful, it's that we know what needs to be done. Like, that's the sort of surprising thing about once you look through the, you're through the looking glass, like, oh, we have all the answers. We actually know exactly how to fix these problems. It's a lack of will. It's a lack of motivation. It's navigating politics. Like, there are a lot of people in a community that don't want to do it. There are a lot of barriers. And we know exactly, like, if you could be in full control, you could implement the greatest revitalization and it would be wildly successful, but that's not the hard part. It's getting people to take those steps. Like, we know parking meters are useful. We know that you want, like, a restaurant owner wants to turn over tables. We know that you want to, there's certain things that we just know, like, but you just can't get them done because people don't like it. It's unpopular. So I think that that's really useful in understanding, like, what's keeping us from accomplishing these things that we know need done.
Yeah. I mean, like, to me, it's very similar to like health and fitness in our country. I mean, a personal, like, that's very simple. We know you exercise and you eat better and you will be healthy. But our country and us as a culture, we spend so much time just not doing that, or we're looking for shortcuts of like, well, what's the fad diet? What's the new thing? Maybe if I buy these clothes, and it's like, it's just, we know what to do. You just got to do the hard work. You just got to exercise and eat better. And so like a personal trainer, they don't have they're like, just do push-ups, do this. Like, they're more psychologists than,
right. Exactly. Moving on then. So Phil, loved the analogy, is a city as a bar, and it's such a good way of, I often lean on the analogies to try to get through some of these things. It's when talking about your places, it's when talking about cities, it is incredibly useful to be able to explain it in another way. People don't necessarily understand how community works, but if you can explain, like, here's something similar to maybe a situation you've been in, it becomes infinitely more clear. So I beat analogies to death, but this is one I really, really enjoyed because it was such a useful way to think about what is often a complicated concept. And you're absolutely right. Like, you started with, hey, somebody recently said social media is the worst thing to ever happen to cities. And like, oh my God, that sums it up entirely. Like, what an unfortunate way to look at this incredible tool that you have as a municipality.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it can be such an incredible tool if you do it well, because if you look at the stats, 80% of the people are in your community are using social media on a daily basis. And on average, those people are on their phones for 6 hours a day. And so if you as a community want to communicate with your people, that's how you do it. It's not printing your announcements and putting them on a bulletin board on the third floor of City Hall and then complaining why nobody knows why doesn't anybody know what's going on in our community. You have, communication is communicating in the way that people are able to be communicated with, which sounds obvious, but I mean, so many times we just choose these modes of communication or these messages of communication that don't connect with people, and so nothing is really happening. And so if you look at the bar analogy, you walk into the bar and that's where the people are, and it's full of all of these different kinds of people that are all interacting in different ways, and they formed little groups, and there's a lot of unwritten rules that you have to abide by in order to be successful in that situation. And that's exactly the environment on social media. You have all of these different people in your communities that are interacting in these small little groups because they decided, hey, this is a group of people that think like I do, and so you have to make connections with their connections, and you have to abide by these unwritten rules. You can't just expect to walk into a bar and say, I am single, everyone date me. I need a date right now. Come on, ladies. Like, you can't expect that's going to be successful because the unwritten rule is don't be a douchebag. But when cities approach social media, they do the exact same thing, and they just post announcements. Like, here's an announcement, here's an announcement, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And that's not what people are on social media for. They want to be entertained, they want to be inspired, and they want to be informed. And if you don't do all three of those, you're not communicating with people.
Yeah. You talked earlier about, you having to decide between like storytelling and am I a public information officer? And I think that's where a lot of cities kind of get it wrong, is because they let their social kind of fall under that, because there are things where cities need to have very clear, direct, formal communication about, like, COVID-19 responses. Right. Here's what we're doing, and we have an evacuation, and here's how we're doing it. But social isn't. It's different, and you had a line I'm going to quote, and I question whether you wrote this because it's brilliant.
I might be busted for plagiarism on the air. So
no,
this
I read
is about to get intense.
This was so great and I think this is true, not just in social, but I think we all do this, or we see people do this. And sterile professionalism isn't an appeal to higher standard, but a mechanism of separation and avoidance of the work it takes to build real relationships. And
so, yeah, I wrote that.
And that is obviously you're writing that about social media of, like, they're hiding under, I need to be professional, and that's why we're doing it this way. And I think you're right. They're hiding from, I don't know how to be a human, and I don't know how to talk to someone. And they're trying to elevate themselves and say, well, I'm doing it because I'm more of a professional. And I think that's so true in, just even interpersonal relationships. Some people, yes, they're just, they act rigid and formal because they think that's more appropriate.
Yeah, it's ego, and ego prevents communication. And so we use language as this divisive weapon to separate people and establish our dominance. I mean, I was in a master's program over at Westminster Choir College in Princeton, New Jersey, and this is me in a former life, and I had to edit some of the essays that were coming out of this graduate class. And that was the thing that struck me, is just because you can right click and look up synonyms for words and then print them and nobody understands what you're talking about doesn't establish authority. And so we cover ourselves in language to establish that authority and to say, well, this is who I am. I know what I'm talking about. And when I'm kind of a newbie in the place scene. And when I first got into placemaking and urbanism and things like that, that was the thing that stuck out to me the most. Was it sounded, a lot of the content that was coming out of the niche was people almost talking to themselves.
Oh, 100%.
I as a person who doesn't know anything from anything, like, I can't follow what you're saying. I don't get it. They're saying, well, this is so easy. A dummy could do it. And I'm sitting in the back of the crowd going, I'm a dummy. Like, I'm dumber than a dummy because I don't understand what you're saying. And so
if for those of you that couldn't see it, Phil was looking like a dummy.
Yeah, you need that visual aid. So yeah, so governments get on social media and then they use this language to establish their dominance on social media. It's very formal, and it's very rigid, and it's very sterile. And that's not what people are about. Like, the more human you can be on social media, the better off everyone is going to be. because they're going to relate to you in a different way. They're going to say, oh, this is like, these are my people. Like our content on City of Saginaw, every single day, there's a human face with a human story.
It's a failure. I mean, it's truly a failure when you don't do that, when you over professionalize your language, when that's why when we started this, like, Jesus Christ.
Acronyms.
No acronyms. See?
Yeah.
See, I've dumbed myself down so
much.
I got
you, dummy.
I'm so leaning into this, like, very common people way of speaking that I forget big words now. So it's just a failure because you're sort of, it's like you're holding something up above everybody's heads, like, I got this, you can't touch it. And that is not doing well. And like, that was one of my great frustrations with, planning in this whole field. It's like, we're not going to make any progress when it's, 2% of the population writing books and speaking to the other 2% of the population about planery stuff. Like that's never going to move the ball forward. What we need is 50% of the population thinking about these things, understanding how important place is, and we're just not getting there.
If what you're talking about is important enough to talk about, it's important enough to talk in a way that everyone understands it. Because then it turns into like this knowledge and this conceptual elitism. Like now it becomes a class thing. Well, we're the smart placemakers.
Right.
And all you dummies don't understand the ins and outs of urbanism and how societies work and all these things. But we are the keepers of the knowledge, and we're going to use this language and this way of speaking to establish that separation when, hello, this is a community thing. Everybody has to understand everything so that we can all move forward together.
So jumping back to thinking about how cities should use these tools, like, I always like to think about the perfect city. And what would they do? How would they behave? What would it be like? Have you seen, one, sort of how should a city use these tools, or two, have you seen a city that's just so good at it? Like or a police department or a fire department, like who is using these tools and what impact is it having? Because I've seen some examples and it's pretty cool, but I'd love to know either of your examples.
As far as how cities should use this, it's like using a tool like social media. One, you have to understand the grammar of it, and the mechanics of it. Because if you're communicating with somebody, even if you have something really great to say, but your punctuation and your spelling and all of that stuff is off, they're going to write off your messages, or it's going to be confusing, or they're going to judge you and your character. So you have to understand the mechanics of it. How does Facebook work? How does Instagram work? What kinds of content do people want to see? So those kinds of mechanics. And then you have to know your community, and you have to use social media as a platform to inform, inspire, and entertain your community. A lot of times that means raising them up and amplifying the best. So featuring people that are doing great work in the community is a really magical way to do that, because those are the people that are making the community what it is. And so you've got to communicate, hey, there are people in this city that love this city and they're busting their ass every single day and they're doing great work and changing people's lives. Here they are. And you're holding them up as almost a role model in front of the community. And now all these people are saying, wow, like that person started this nonprofit, that person started this business. That's how I can help. And so that's how you can start to change the culture of it. I love Bath Township Police Department because they're very casual. They're very pointed. They're funny every day. But when things are serious, then they have some kind of like very clear call to action, and they've won people over so that when they do make that call to action, hey, a 7-year-old went missing this morning. We need everybody out looking for them. That post goes viral in seconds because people are saying, hey, we got to help this 7-year-old. And so on the outside, it's looking like, to somebody who doesn't understand social media, they're like, why are these police officers making fun of drunk drivers? That's so unprofessional. Or why are they making fun of thieves? That's so unprofessional. But it pays off when they do ask for something. If your neighbor came over every single day and constantly wanted to borrow your stuff and never returned it, sooner or later you're going to cut off that relationship because they're like, they only want something from me. But if you guys hang out and he buys you beer and he mows your lawn, and then he comes over and says, hey, can you help me with I got to pull a tree out of my backyard. You drop everything and you go help him because there's a give and take there. And so the best social media is that give and take. I'm going to give, and then I'm going to ask you to come to my downtown event.
It makes me think a lot of what Ryan said last week when we were talking about like the director of fun as a city position. It's like, if you keep contributing to the good bucket, you've got a little bit of room. You keep building goodwill, you're going to win people over. You have some room to make mistakes, and I think that is important. And it, right, you want to personalize a municipality. You want it to feel it's a relationship. You want to feel like there's a relationship there. And when you personalize it, people start to feel like, oh yeah, my city is a person. I like people. I know how to interact with people. I can talk to people. And it's going to completely change that relationship because then you have empathy, then you can understand. And you just can't do that with the typical, here's the memo.
Yeah. And Phil, you said something, it might've been on your personal Facebook page, but you were talking about how, when a lot of people talk to the city on social, they think they're talking to an entity, but they're talking to a human. There's like a human being on the other end of that. And I don't know, it just makes me think of like talking about the professionalism stuff a few minutes ago. Like it took a while for me in business to get comfortable with like my style and personality and voice and tone. And I think I used to like early on in my career would kind of check my personality at the door and be like, I'm in a client meeting, so you don't joke, you don't tell jokes, and you don't do this. And then I quickly realized people buy from people they like. And, and so yeah, like if I'm kind of casual and sarcastic, and when I talk, hey, I'm not a great speaker, but I know what I'm talking about, so I'll talk, and I see that people respond way more to that than me trying to be like, all right, I'm in work mode now, let's do this. And I think cities have to define their voice and tone of what they are. And that doesn't mean they can't be serious when they need to be serious. Cause like I can joke around, but if there's a missing kid, I'm going to get serious and we're going to find him. Right. And so an example, I think you were asking about examples. I mean, obviously like everybody knows like the New Jersey Twitter, like they went super far with like funny all the time, but I think a really great one, and they don't do it all the time, but when they do it, they nail it is actually the Aspen Chamber. Surprisingly, they've really identified this cheeky, not preachy is kind of how they define it, their tone. Because I've talked to them about kind of and because they realized, they have a lot of visitors, and people that visit Aspen, they either know Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous Aspen, or they think Dumb and Dumber Aspen. And they need to really define, they have all these visitors coming into their community, and they need to kind of tell them, hey, you don't go trash our trails, you don't feed bears. But they want to do it in a cheeky, not preachy way. And they do a really good job of like kind of telling people, this is kind of how the rules are here, but in a fun way. And it works really well.
In the early days of the pandemic, when everybody was raging about toilet paper being hoarded and there's no toilet paper, I started putting out a series of memes making fun of people who are hoarding toilet paper. And the point was, like when you steal or when you hoard toilet paper, you're stealing from the 95-year-old grandma who it took her 2.5 hours to get ready to go to the grocery store, and she shows up and there's no toilet paper. And I got annihilated by a group of people because they thought that it was unprofessional and that I was making fun of, whatever different community, and that I was turning the page into the laughing stock of the state of Michigan. And so I got on to their page and I said, hey, I'm Phil. Hey guys, I'm the guy who's posting the memes. This is why we're using memes to communicate this, is because if we as a government came on and said, hear ye, we solemnly declare that no one in the city of Saginaw should hoard toilet paper due to local ordinance 1.2.b, like nobody's going to listen to that. But if you communicate the message in a way that people are willing to listen to it, they're going to walk away with the point. And more people are going to get it. And now you can shift this the culture from thinking that hoarding is okay to like, hey, yeah, if you hoard stuff from that grandma, you're an asshole. And
Right.
like, that's the power of getting people and more people to hear that message. And if it takes a meme, look, you have a responsibility to do it.
Right. Success in communication means reaching more people. It's
Yes.
not, the message is half it's reaching more people. And I found when I made the transition from, I ran the Ohio Main Street program, and I've constantly writing and putting things out, but it all had to be a very professional tone. You couldn't offend anybody. You had to be very careful, coming from that viewpoint. And so you hardly said anything in some ways. Like, yes, I've got to communicate this information, but I have to do it in a way that does not interest anybody. I've got to make sure nobody finds anything in here. And that was difficult, making the transition to, being an entrepreneur. Like, I've got to say what's on my mind. I've really got to, I've obviously made that transition, but it was tricky at first to break that habit of trying to say nothing interesting because the success means you have to say something interesting. But what's been so great about that is having people come up to me constantly and say, thank you. Like, this is, the words in which you say them has been a huge help to me in my town. It's been refreshing. It's allowed me to, maybe do something that, or think about it a new way. Or I had a councilwoman come up to me in Iowa and hug me. And she was probably 85 years old. She's like, thanks for kind of giving me permission to say something at council that needed to be said. And so it really is so powerful to communicate effectively, to say it interesting, to communicate in a way that's relatable, because you're then that message gets across. Like, I was, to your point, Phil, when you're being all quotable, like, if it's worth saying, you better say it in a manner that gets people to pay attention.
Yeah. And that everybody understands it, because otherwise you're just wasting time. You're wasting time, and you're wasting effort, and you're wasting opportunity to really make a change in the world. And so if you have an opportunity to speak to a council, or to your quote average citizen, like, you've got to explain things in a way that they understand it, so that you can all move forward with the same understanding, or at least with the understanding, like, okay, I get where they're coming from, even though I don't agree with what they're saying.
Right. So, Phil, I'm curious your thought, like, the two biggest things that I feel like we kind of have to help cities and clients navigate. The first is, because it comes out of the communications office often, is getting them comfortable. Like, just put away the AP style book for social. Like, yes, these press releases and this formal communique needs to be this way, but on a social post, if we want to say, hey, it's going to start at 7-ish, we don't have to 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like, so, I mean, that one I get. It's just communications people, I think, need to know when to put it up. But the second thing I'm curious your thoughts on is, and it's different for every city based on their size, but you have any thoughts or rule of thumb of what, when cities should have multiple accounts for different departments and things? Because obviously you can overdo it to where every department has its own social account feed. And there are times when, you might want to just follow the library to get updates about that versus the whole city. But I've seen where cities have 20 accounts and they can't manage them properly.
Yeah, I guess the rule of thumb there would be to group things based on almost theme. So if departments have some kind of overlap, they could have a Department of Health and Water or something like that. I'm really opposed to a lot of different accounts, because now instead of one source of information, you've got 25 sources of information. There's no reason why the road commission should have its own social media presence. Like, why would you do that? All of 7 people in a town of 100,000 are going to be following your Facebook page. Like, why do that? Just roll it into, something else, like public services, city of Bay City public services page. And now you've got, electric and water and everything, like, posting there. Like, if you wanted to differentiate it that way. And I'm saying that because, one, it's confusing to people, Like, well, who do I follow? And as soon as you have this really complicated system of communication, now it breaks down. Now it's like people trying to grab 9 different phones as they're ringing. Like,
Right.
you're never going to answer one, right? You're going to kind of get messages and things like that. But if you had one phone, or if you had 2 phones, that's a little bit more manageable. And the second is just because I know how much work it takes to run one page well, and good enough
Right.
to the point where people want to interact with it. And so if you took that amount of time and effort in your public or public services page, and then you doubled it because you wanted, or tripled it or quintupled it because you wanted Waterworks to have their own page, and Road Commission to have their own page, and Electric to have their own commission, like you made a lot of work for a few people. And so I would really look at the resources that you have. So do you have a staff of 1 or 0? Or do you have a staff of 10 that would be able to manage something like that? That gives you a little bit more options. But I would say, when in doubt, keep things simple and try to have as few accounts as possible.
So, the kind of topic around professionalism and language and barriers that city can sort of hide behind professionalism as a way to avoid having to do it. I think it's a kind of an interesting transition to the third topic fourth, I forgot about omelets. The fourth topic about boards and committees, and somebody had asked a question about boards and committees, and I've had some of this week. At the end of the keynote, somebody had said, "Well, my city, what if we can't do that here?" Or they said it's a liability, or that there gets a lot of structure put in place where citizens don't feel like they can overcome it. And that is a huge detriment. Like it's a huge barrier to accomplishing the good things that need to be done. Like I said, we know what needs to be done in these cities, but for a lot of people, they can't get it done because of all these bureaucratic barriers or rules. And the point being is, like, you have to find a way to navigate those, and rules can be changed. Like every single rule that was put into place, every law, every ordinance, didn't used to exist. Like it was someone's idea of this way that they thought would make their community better. They created a committee, they created a commission, some sort of board as a way to address some sort of issue. And like those can all be changed. They're not set in stone. And in fact, most structure was put together in like the 70s and 80s that is very much in opposition to doing what you want to try to get accomplished. And it has to be changed. You have to navigate those issues in some way, either way that you get involved, either whether you tear them down, either way you get legislation changed. But those shouldn't be treated. It's not like when you run up against them and you say, well, that committee told me no, or the council said no. Like that's just the initial answer. That is not where it stops.
Yeah, I mean, I Jeff, I think a lot of people know you and Revitalize Your Die for the your speaking and writing, but I mean you do a lot of work with helping people form these boards and consulting on boards and kind of what makes a healthy board and not a healthy board. And I mean I think that's just so important, because I just know from our standpoint, when we're working with a dysfunctional board or we have a committee that we're responding to and it's not a healthy one, that makes or breaks the project. And I think more cities need to hire consultants like you to like help them get that right and figure it out, because that's almost, I think, the most important first step is you got to have the right group of people that aren't just people. I think in cities we have enough ideas. Like we need people to like start doing things, and I mean we even talk about that on our Proud Places meetings. Like we've got a lot of ideas, we need to now like start doing some of them and executing on them. And I think people that are part of committees and boards kind of want to show up sometimes, throw in their 2 cents and then go home. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to contribute to it, but I do think it's super, super important.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about the boards and commissions, and he was interested in trying to rally some support and get some new blood in boards and commissions. And he was looking for a list of the city's boards and commissions on the website, and he couldn't find it. And so I had to send an email to City Hall and say, hey, do we have does this list exist?
Mhm.
And they sent me a link to the list, but that the link wasn't connected to the actual website. And so I think step one is your city communicating the value of these boards and commissions to its people? And if it's not communicating that value, one, you have to say, well, is it a communication issue? Are they just forgot about it because there's so many other things to do and they're just not putting it in front of people? Or two, are these boards and commissions actually valuable?
Right.
And if they're not, you have to find a way to make them valuable so that when you do say, hey, everybody, we've got 2 vacancies in the Historic District Commission. Who wants in? Everybody's like, pick me, I want in, because they understand what that board is. They understand the value and things like that. So one, you have to ask, is your community communicating the value of being involved in government? And if they are, you have to look and say, well, what is that value then? Are those boards doing something? Are those commissions doing something? And if you're on those boards and commissions, you either have to make the commitment to say, I am going to do something, or I have to leave. Because you're taking space from people
Right.
that in their community, if they knew what your board or commission could do, they would want to be part of that.
Right. It goes, gosh, we're always going back to Phil's quotes, but it's sort of the same thing as like, if it's worth saying, if it was important enough to create this thing, you better take it damn serious. Like, you better put people on it that know what they're doing, that are committed to it, that are going to continue to educate themselves in that position, that are going to take it seriously. I mean, some of these, like, it's codified in ordinance in some of these instances when it's a city created board and they don't take it serious and they just put on people that have no clue what they're doing. And it really diminishes the reputation then of that board and the city itself by not taking it more serious. And those can be incredibly powerful, or they should just go away if they're not being effective.
You have to sell your boards and commissions harder than you would if you were running your own business. Because typically in a business, I have something really neat that you want. I make really great sandwiches, give me your money. And what you're making convinces people. But when it's a board or commission as part of the government, you got the deck stacked against you. They're volunteers. They have to go to meetings. Meetings have a bad reputation. Government has a bad reputation. I'm like, you have all of these things against you. And so you if you're not working to overcome that in some capacity, all of your boards and all your commissions will always suck. And you're constantly be grabbing at people who just happen to have Tuesdays at 7 p.m. open. So yeah, I'll be on the downtown board, because you haven't sold it hard enough. The board isn't good enough. It doesn't do enough. It's not visible enough in the community. And so when people say, hey, Phil, you want to become a part of this board? I'm like, hell no.
Right.
Like, why would I do that? Like, I this is the first time I've heard of your board in 10 years. Like, why would I want to give up my Tuesday to go do that? Like, you really have to sell it, and you have to make sure that it's these little jewels in your community, because these people are volunteers.
Right.
And they're like, the work you do and the purpose and what you accomplish, that's what has to sell people and get them involved.
I rail at this concept. Like, it is one of my big things, because if your approach is, hey, you have no commitment to be on this, like, we're not asking anything of you. We're like, oh, so you've just, it's like the dating, like, hey, I got no standards. You interested in me? Like, I don't expect anything of you. It's not gonna really pan out well for you.
I was asked to be on a board by somebody, and they said, oh, it's not that much commitment. It's only the third Tuesday of each month. We have a meeting. It's for 1 hour. Like, why would I waste 1 hour if that's all I have to put into it? Like,
right.
You're trying to convince me to go to one meeting for an hour a month. Like, why would I do that?
Right. And it's such a backwards approach when what you have to realize is that people get involved with something for its meaning, for what it's going to give to them, for giving them a sense of purpose, for accomplishing something. And so if the outset is you're telling them that's off the table, you're not going to get any good people. It's the opposite, in fact. People aren't seeking out a college that has the lowest standards. People aren't seeking out careers at the lowest standards. You're actually looking for the opposite, and boards and committees would be so much more successful to take that approach.
Yeah, I think, one piece of advice I would have is, when you look at the makeup of the board, is go out of your way to get a really young person on the board, because the groups that we've had to work with, and even when we're just doing focus groups, if everybody in the room is in their 40s and 50s, and then we throw a high school student in there, it's amazing how much, like, even just focus groups on like branding or something like that, it's amazing how much insight, because you start seeing, a bunch of people that are this kind of same stage of life talking about like, well, this is why we need to do it this way, and this is how we do it. And then as soon as they hear somebody that often is the type of person that we're trying to recruit more of and bring talent and retain talent in communities, but we don't seek out their opinion in boards. I mean, I think in the branding project we did in Burleson, we actually met with the mayor's youth council, which was this group of just all students. And it was the best group that we met with. Like, we met with so many boards, but they were the best and the most informed. And the entire project is to retain and attract young talent. And so why are we not talking to them? And so, yeah, your makeup of your board, I think, is super important. Not just young people. It needs to represent your community too.
Yeah. Why are we not talking to them, and why are we talking against them? I mean, I think back to the first, I had just started my business, and I went to my very first Chamber of Commerce event. It was a breakfast eye-opener event. And so I was sitting at a table across from 4 other people that I think were somewhere around 50 years old. And they were just reeling against millennials, just reeling, like, these trophy kids, and I can't ever get a millennial to show up to work, and they just don't have any drive. Like, they're just obliterating millennials. And so when they finally stopped their rant, they introduced themselves to me. And I said, my name's Phil. I run Full Steam Social Media, and I'm a millennial. And it's like, well, if that's how you try to incorporate millennials and these different age groups into your conversations, is by just annihilating them. Like, yeah, why would they ever want to become part of a board or a commission? Because that's just where I go, and I get told that I'm lazy and I shouldn't be there.
Yeah, and I always wonder, like, who raised millennials? Like, were they raised by themselves? Are they wolves?
We just appeared.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
We appeared one day. Yeah, we grew out of avocado toast. When you spread the avocado toast, the avocado on the toast, we actually grow out of the piece of toast.
Interesting. That explains a lot.
Yeah, we smell of nutmeg and cinnamon.
What I think first off, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. More than anything, when Ryan said that you should probably hire people like Jeff to come in and fix these things, like that trumps all the brilliant things that
I saw
you
the
said
dollar
today,
sign emoji come on your screen.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's whether it's a nonprofit board, a city commission, like, it all comes down to the same. It's high expectations. Put in place high expectations from the outset, and put in mechanisms with which you can enforce those expectations, and then act on it. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't act on it. So that's from kind of the side of, if you're putting these things together, you have to take that approach. You have to ask more people and let them rise to the challenge. If you're coming from the side of the community and you're having a difficult time navigating these things, dig deeper, find out, ask questions, find out, what are these structures? Why are they in place? Are they working effectively or not? And if not, then change it. And I've seen historic commissions that are absolutely killing any chance of investment because the people on the committee don't understand their job. They think that they're doing one thing and they're actually doing something quite different, and they're destroying their town by thwarting investment. So, if that's the case, like, it can be changed, and it should be changed. It has to be changed. The answer isn't just to run up against that and say, like, well, can't go that route anymore. That thing's in the way. If it's keeping your community from progressing, you have to change it. And that means, like, show up to council. As I say, like, if you show up to council with 30 people, you'll get what you want. You can make change. There are people in your town that also want great things to happen, that are also in your same boat. Get them together and start making those changes. But it can't just be like, hey, well, that avenue is dead.
Yeah, that, and I think those actions for change, and just because I see it on social media all the time, those actions for change have to be concrete actions of change. And comments on Facebook and Instagram, that's not advocating for change. That's making your opinion known, which is great. And words have changed the world. But like Gandhi just didn't sit there and write speeches and then type them on a telegram and that was it. Like he was out in front of people and in the streets. Martin Luther King Jr., the same thing. He didn't just write one speech. It wasn't just that, it was all the other things that led to systemic changes. And so if that's you, yeah, it can start with social media, it can start with words, but it has to be this concrete change. So if you're passionate enough about your place, you should be passionate enough to become part of that board or that commission, or to team up with 3 other people. What a beautiful thing. There's 3 vacancies on a board that can make a great change. You get you convince 2 of your friends or 2 of the other people in the community who think similarly to you and say, let's fill this vacancy. Now you got a posse. Like, that could be epic because you've transitioned this opinion into something concrete. And that's the power of getting involved in that capacity, because now you have the power and you have the control to actually make things change. Otherwise, you're just a complainer. And we don't need more of those.
Nobody likes complainers.
Yeah. Ryan, you're muted.
Yeah, you're saying brilliant
Oh,
things.
I dropped the you're muted bomb.
Boom. I was just saying, I want to be in a posse. That sounds cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm gonna start pulling some things together on this posse idea. I've got some ideas. I've been storyboarding a few things. Like, I think I can probably get something together by next week on this posse. But I'm gonna have to run it by the committee. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they probably won't go for that.
Yeah, and we'll probably table it till
We'll
the next meeting.
Table it. Matt, time flies when you're talking about boards and committees, gentlemen. We are out of it, but awesome stuff. We managed to string it together again. Like, we managed to make somehow those subjects all come together with a simultaneous, cleverness. The handsomeness is definitely like sprinkled in there, and I don't know how it works, but I appreciate it. And just a sheer posse like energy.
Yeah, the energy was there.
The posse energy was definitely there. Phil, do the thing.
I have to do the thing. Okay, here's the thing.
Right.
Follow us on social media and sign up for our newsletter. Now, do it. Go to proudplaces.com, sign up for our newsletter, read all the articles that you haven't read, watch all the videos you haven't seen, because they are awesome and amazing, and created by our 15 contributors who are all beautiful, wonderful human beings and experts in their field. And then follow us on Facebook, Proud Places, like our page, comment. We love hearing from people. And then follow us on Instagram at proud_places. Same deal. Like, comment, share, interact with us, because we love seeing all your comments and stuff. So website, social media, do it.
Now.
All
right, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.